Batman Year One. Batman Year One is regarded as a classic story by most comic readers, but I don't believe in rating a book higher just because it is considered a classic. More often, I just respect them for advancing the medium than usually enjoying them. A good example of this for me would be most old movies that came out, like the original Dracula over 1931 with Bela Lugosi. And I even kind of have this with Dark Knight Returns, which was written by Frank Miller before he did Year One. The story in Dark Knight Returns I find entertaining and interesting commentary on society, but it didn't feel like the kind of Batman I truly enjoyed, which evolved more later on with the Batman the Animated Series, and finally took shape into the modern Batman in the comics and in most other mediums. Again, the biggest compliment I have towards Dark Knight Returns is that I respect it because it showed what could be pulled off in a comic, and the more interesting and mature stories that could be told within the medium. Having said all that, Batman Year One is interesting because it is completely worth its reputation, and at the same time is a story I actually enjoy reading from beginning to end, though Batman Year One is a pretty short book. In many ways, this is the perfect book for people to begin reading Batman comics, though I suggest that younger readers stick to Batman the Animated Series, which is still a very sophisticated show, but this book might be a bit much for younger readers in content matter. The reason this book is a must-have for new readers is quite obvious since it's right on the title. No knowledge of Batman is needed to understand the story, and this is Batman at his very beginning, so anyone can pick it up. Continuity-wise, this comic is in a unique position because it is the beginning of two different Batman continuities, or timelines if you will. It is part of the standard Batman canon as well as Frank Miller's Dark Knight canon, which are two slightly different versions of the character, the Frank Miller version being more flawed and bitter than the standard Batman. All that aside, what makes Year One work so well is that it's a character piece. But oddly, Batman is not the main focus of the story. The character the book puts most focus on is Jim Gordon, who starts off as a lieutenant in Gotham City, wherein corruption and crime is ridiculously high, especially within the police. The reader truly gets to understand and sympathize with Gordon because he is genuinely a good person in a terrible situation. Though he is human and he does make mistakes, the biggest one being getting into an affair with a fellow detective, Sarah Essen. Batman is weirdly almost in the background, taking down mobsters and corrupt cops. It is interesting that Batman also makes mistakes here and is not yet the super confident world's greatest detective that is more towards the beginning of Snyder's current run on the New 52 of Batman. But the scene that in the book that most illustrates this point is when Batman first wears the suit against some thugs and finds that it actually succeeds in scaring them. But he puts the criminals and himself in danger by assessing the situation poorly. So Batman is starting off, rather fresh, and though he's no world's greatest detective yet, he still has a lot of cool gadgets and a lot of cool techniques. Even the third issue at the beginning says he's trapped, he's outnumbered, they are in trouble, which I thought was pretty cool. The artwork I didn't find to be all that brilliant, but it told the story really well and went along great with Frank Miller's script. I just quickly want to mention my favorite part of the book, which is the very beginning of the second issue, where Gordon handles a hostage situation with an escaped mental patient. dialogue in the scene is fantastic and perfectly illustrates what a likable character Gordon is. I especially liked when he hears that one of the SWAT team guys, I think Brandon, is about to handle the situation before Gordon gets there, and Gordon just thinks, Brandon, it'll be a massacre. The ending of the book slightly ties in with the Black Mirror, which I also highly recommend. And I quickly want to get a little off track and say I think Bryan Cranston for Batman Year One, the animated movie, casting him as Gordon is absolutely brilliant. He could play the role live action. That's how good of a casting choice I think he is, though I love Gary Oldman, so just throwing that out there really quickly. Overall, I would say that this is some of my favorite work by Frank Miller, my top favorite being his run on Daredevil, which is also incredibly brilliant. If I have any complaint about this story, is that it's a little short and not really as impactful emotionally as other Batman stories like The Black Mirror or The Long Halloween, which made me feel more suspense, more emotion. But I understand that this is only the first year of Batman, so nothing really big or monumental can really happen yet except Batman starting out and starting to clean up the city. So who am I kidding? If you're into comics, you've probably already read Batman Year One. But I wanted to give in my 2 cents on the book, and I would highly recommend to those few people that have not read it. If you're interested in the animated movie, it's pretty much exactly the same as the book, but I recommend the book before I would recommend the movie, because the book has a better pacing, goes slightly better into detail. It's just a more effective experience as the book. Whereas the movie, it follows the story very, very closely, but it's not really the same. So yeah, I would highly, highly recommend Batman Year One. Next review is gonna be Spider Island, so stay tuned and thanks for listening.